You're listening to the Magnetic Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Calandra Martin, intuitive brand designer for spiritual entrepreneurs. The Magnetic Boss Podcast is where visionaries come together to openly share wisdom and authentic conversations. I know that you are ready to leave your legacy in the world and become sought out in your industry. I also know that you are sick and tired of getting overlooked. You're ready to have a magnetic business. I'm here to help you create your magnetic brand. It's my mission to help you show up confidently with a professional, irresistible online presence. If you're in this for the long game and all in on the big vision you have for your business, let's dive in. Welcome to the Magnetic Boss Podcast. Today I am joined by Maria Spear Ollis. She is a lawyer flipping the script on fear-based legal conversations that are focused on arguing. She teaches coaches, healers, and spiritual entrepreneurs how contracts and IP protection can support their nervous system, protect their energy, and give them the confidence to scale. Through her legal membership and one-on-one support, Maria offers contracts and tools that help entrepreneurs back up their legacy work with boundaries that keep them in creation mode instead of panic mode. Before stepping into her role as an artsy matriarchal version of Ellie Woods, Maria was an opera and music theater performer. Today, she's a wannabe homesteader, Bravo lover, sourdough maker, wife to her ginger husband, and mom of 3 wild boys. Maria is a Scorpio sun and 1/3 manifesting generator. Maria, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I always start off these conversations with kind of a overview of who you are, what you do, who you help, but also like how you got started and how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah, so I am an attorney for coaches and healers and online service providers. And I took a very winding, twisting road to get to this place. We just shared before we hit record, we're both Scorpio suns. And so, like, that shedding and evolving that takes place for us as Scorpios and just us in general. But in college, I was a voice major. So I trained as an opera singer, did musical theater, and somewhere along the way, although I didn't use this phrasing and terminology at the time, but I knew that, kind of outsourcing my self-worth in terms of auditioning for the rest of my life just felt daunting and overwhelming and not how I wanted to live. And so I like to say I had my Elle Woods moment. I think I'll go to law school today, and really was thinking about, I had friends that were independent musicians, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, this will date me, but iTunes was new at the time, and people were like illegally downloading music. And I was like, I'll fight for, the indie artists. And so went to law school. And I did like the entertainment law stuff, but I really loved like the trademark and the copyright and the building stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so graduated law school, started working here in Nashville at Country Music Television for a little while. Then started working at a firm for a little while where I did litigation and entertainment law. And then in 2015, almost 11 years ago, I started my own practice and really wanted to focus on, like I said, the kind of building area of the law instead of the fighting and suing, like putting things in place on the front end so that you can feel protected. That's really what I love doing.
I love that. And one thing that really drew me to bringing you on the show is you call yourself the Lunar Lawyer and you have the legal apothecary. So tell me a little bit about how that was born and like your journey to specifically speaking to some of these more astrological and like holistic things that you wouldn't typically see when you're thinking of like a lawyer, and how that came about.
Yes. So I have 3 boys, and when my middle child was about a year old, year and a half old, I started working with a business coach, and I knew her basically from a community that I had been a part of. Didn't know her well, but I was always just kind of like drawn to her energy, and started working with her. And she's like, I know that it sounds counterintuitive because up until that point, once my husband took the kids to drop them off and everything was quiet for a block of time, I would be like, okay, I have all of these things to do, and here's my list, and here's everything that I have to do, and just like tight white knuckle the day and try
Mm-hmm.
and get everything done. She's like, instead of that, try and sit. She's like, you don't have to call it meditation, just like sit at your desk, light a candle, like set the stage for how you want your day to go.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of introduced me to like card pulling and crystals and meditation, which obviously completely changed the way that work. I
Mm-hmm.
approached work each day. And so that was kind of like my gateway into this world. And once I started developing these habits and learning more, I was like, more women, more people need to know about this. More people need to do this. And I am not necessarily the healer, but if I can work with people that do this work, then
Mm-hmm.
I would feel, maybe selfishly, I would feel creatively fulfilled in knowing that I am supporting the work, in that way. And so that was kind of my entry into that in 2021, which I can't believe is 5 years ago. And so that's how I got here.
I love that. I love that it seems like every spiritual entrepreneur that I speak to, even if that's not like your bread and butter or what you do, there's always this ripple effect where you kind of stumble into the work for yourself and then
Yes.
realize how impactful that is. And I've experienced that in my own business, working with people that are healers and are doing these really incredible modalities, even though that's not my zone of genius, but to be able to share what they're doing and help their businesses grow. And I think that with this conversation, what I really want to highlight and something that you spoke to before we press play was the fact that, like, when it comes to the legal part of business, a lot of us, especially spiritual entrepreneurs and women that are in their zone, they don't know what they don't know. And I think that there's so many things that we could speak to today, but is there something that comes up really frequently for you when somebody's just coming to you and they're like, I need help. I need to figure this out. Like, what are the first couple of steps that somebody can take?
That's a really good question. I always kind of start with the website, and because that's kind of all of our, if someone's thinking about working with you, that's what they look at.
Yes.
Maybe they'll look at your Instagram or your Substack, but they'll eventually, once they get through, they'll like, oh, cool. If they want to dig deeper, they hit a link somewhere.
Hmm.
And so I think of the website as that window. And the thing that always gets people, surprises people, is using the TM symbol.
Mm.
You can use the TM symbol without a registered trademark. The R in the circle is only if you have a registered trademark, but think of trademark as your brand. And it can be your business name, that thing at the top of your website. It can be the name of your podcast. It can be the name of a community you've created, a signature package. Trademarks can be all of those things, a course. So using the TM symbol is a very free, easy thing that you can do to show people, hey, I consider this to be my trademark.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really important one, and actually something I'll be so transparent in. I didn't know up until very recently, and I was like,
And why would you?
oh, this is really important, especially because the online space is so busy. And for me, with helping women with their branding and their positioning, that really is an authority building move where you have that stake in the sand of like, this is what I am creating, this is what I'm here to share with the world. So I think that's super important.
Yep, absolutely.
And for the trademark piece, is that something that you find people will hold off on registering for a length of time or for certain reasons? I'm
It
curious.
is an investment because there's kind of two parts to it. There's the clearance part, which is making sure it's available, seeing what else is out there, seeing if somebody could yell at you or send you a cease and desist or whatever. And then there's the application part. And I always tell people, people will say, how do I know when is the right time to trademark? I say, if it's a name that you would be heartbroken if you couldn't use it, then that's a sign to trademark. But also sometimes, especially with logos, because I feel like brands can evolve sometimes. If you're brand new, you went on Canva, you created something and you're like, this is good enough for now.
Yeah.
maybe that's not the logo you want to go with because you may evolve. And so if you think it could change, get it out there, run your first, run your beta, run whatever it is, like start using it. Because the other thing is when you file for trademark protection, you have to list what's called goods and services. You have to list what it is you're offering under that brand. So
Mhm.
if that's going to evolve, then you don't want to have to start over. So making sure that you know, okay, this is the name. This is what I'm going to offer. Those are two things that you should have in place before you go down that path.
Yeah, I think that that's a super important differentiator because what I see a lot of women doing and coming to me with when it comes to branding is like they have to burn it in permanently. Like this is the thing. And I think with trademark, when you are filing, obviously you need that to be set in stone when you make it official. But I do love that you're giving people permission and the invitation to give themselves space for evolution because I think all of us know as business owners, especially if we're in the beginning stages, there's a lot to navigate and
Mm-hmm.
figure out and offers that work and offers that don't work, offers that we love and things we don't love.
Yes. Or offers we thought we were going to love, and we're like, no, this is
Yeah.
not it.
Yeah. And I think you and I were both manifesting generators for those listening, which is a really interesting dynamic as well, because for us, we are so fast paced. And I'm sure you've gone through a million evolutions along the way,
Absolutely.
of like figuring it out and kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When it comes to, so trademarks are one thing. I think the other thing that comes up for a lot of people is contracts and whether they have them or don't have them, or wondering if they are good enough. What is your like first starting point for people that are knowing that they maybe need contracts but don't know what they need?
Yeah. So a few things and things that you can start doing right now today, regardless of whether you have a lawyer. I think, first of all, it's important to remember that a contract is just making sure that you and your client or your buyer or whoever are on the same page, that there's no ambiguity in terms of what's included, how much it costs, when payment is expected, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
And something that I like to start with is what I call a boundary statement. And it's literally this, we'll say service or package. This package specifically includes, and then fill in the blank.
Mhm.
What is specifically included in this course, this package, this reading, whatever it is? And then optionally, you can add on to that blank is not included, but available as an upgrade if you want to offer something as an upgrade.
Mhm.
Because that right there, that boundary statement makes very clear this is included, this is not included. And so plugging that into a sales page, plugging that into a contract is a really solid place to start because it also gets your wheels turning in terms of, ooh, do I really want to say unlimited access? I don't think you do. Nobody does.
Mhm.
And so, but thinking through, okay, what does that actually mean? It means, WhatsApp access from 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday. That's very specific. That's not ambiguous. That makes sure that sets your client relationship up for success.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's important, and I've learned a lot of this the hard way when it comes to contracts, that you get as specific as possible. I think that we all go into these agreements, whether it's hiring a service provider or bringing on a team member, and we have the best intentions, but we can't always see what's going to happen in that relationship. So just knowing this is the service that you're offering. Here's what's included. Another thing that I've learned the hard way as a service provider who does done for you work is adding timelines to those things and
Mm.
expectations around like turnaround and revisions. And
Yes.
some of those
And
things.
what happens if the client doesn't get back to you within a certain amount of time and you're right to like kind of adjust and judge that timeline?
Yeah. So I'll say, like, for my contracts over the years, they've changed drastically. And every time I work with a client, I tend to add, like, oh, here's this thing that needs to be added in here.
Yeah.
So I think with the contracts, it's helpful for people to know kind of like the boundary statement. And then depending on the service or the offer, do you find that there's a big difference in service provider roles versus like people that have product-based businesses? What does that typically look like?
Yes, product-based business will be a lot different. So if you have a product-based business, the thing I want you to think about is refund policy.
Hmm.
And a refund versus exchange and obviously shipping, but like refund policy being, when are returns acceptable? When are they not acceptable? Is there a time frame? Will they get store credit? Will they get a full refund? All of those little things. I like to even create it as a separate standalone policy from like your terms and conditions, just
Hmm.
so it's very clear because not just because it's legally enforceable, but because of all of the back and forth that can go on if somebody does want a refund,
Hmm.
making it like, here's the link, it's the paragraph, and helping you to not have to be so reactive when something like that happens.
Hmm. Yeah, I think with all of this, whether it's terms and conditions or contracts or having a trademark, I think at the energetic level of it, it does give you a peace of mind and feeling like you do have that protection. Um, and I know that when there is uncertainty in business, that's where some things can happen. Have you seen some of these things come up with your clients and people that you've worked with over the years where they maybe like held off on something and realized that they should have done it sooner? What does that usually come about as?
Yes, for sure. In various contexts, sometimes it's the trademark where it's like, oh man, they filed 2 months before I filed, or gosh, what else? Course creators. It can be, some blurred lines between what someone can and can't do with their materials. So what I like to say is, can I promise that nobody's going to, cross the line? Of course not. But what having these things in place does is it makes it less of it. It's like a seatbelt, Can you still get in an accident? Yes, but it hopefully will catch you and make the repercussions less.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've been in situations myself over the years with clients that wanted a refund. And thankfully, I did have a contract in place and I had a refund policy in place. And all of those things really allowed me to navigate something that was a tricky situation to begin with, where you have like the relationship dynamic, but then the legal dynamic of it, where I did feel like I had that protection and was really happy to have
Yeah.
that. One thing that I want to come back to is the website component. So you've mentioned terms and conditions. I also know that there are cookies policies and things that people need on their website. So what are the like top couple of things that are a non-negotiable when you're getting your website created?
Yes. So terms and condition there's terms and conditions or terms of use, and there's privacy policy. And
Mhm.
so terms and conditions are kind of the contract between you and the user of your website, especially important if you're selling something, if you have like a cart on your website, but also if you have a blog, that's where your disclaimer can live, limitations of liability, meaning your liability as a healer, as a practitioner, whatever, for someone coming across your website content is limited. But then that privacy policy is in place for you if you are collecting information about anybody that lands on your website. So it can be like the Meta pixel, Facebook pixel, it can be cookies, it can be email addresses, especially. And then, of course, if you're selling something, all that payment information.
Yeah.
So, privacy and data law has come a long way since I started my practice in the last 11 years. And there are now, today, as of January 1, 2026, I think 38 states with different data and privacy laws.
Gosh.
There's also the EU, there's also the UK, there's also Australia, there's also Canada, just to name a few, right? So I have started pointing people towards, and I'll send you the link, but there's a service called Termageddon. Is it Termageddon or Termsageddon? I always switch
One
them,
of those.
but the link will be there. And basically, you tell it about your website. It generates a privacy policy that speaks to your business, and then it will auto update as these data and privacy laws update.
Oh, that's amazing.
which is amazing. So I will send that link to you. But it is a lot to keep up with. I
Mhm.
don't even want to keep up with
Yeah.
it as a lawyer. You and your audience, I'm sure, do not want to have to worry about it.
Mhm.
So, but it is important, especially like you said, the online world has become so global
Mhm.
that if you have someone in, Portugal and Australia, wherever, that's landing on your website, booking a reading, booking a service with you, you just want to make sure that you are as protected as possible.
Absolutely. And I think that that's one of those areas where people think, oh, I don't need it until I need it. And I've had clients come to me with website design
I'm
projects,
sure. Yeah.
and I've had to be like, no, we really have to get this done before we can publish your website. Couldn't encourage it more. So I think that that's a really important piece with that.
Yes.
Um, Is there anything else that's like a blind spot or a thing that people, if they're just kind of starting out in business, or maybe they've been operating and not really giving this any attention, that they tend to overlook or don't even think about?
I would say, specifically in this world, kind of along the same lines as that refund policy, but specifically if you are booking readings or something that requires someone to schedule time with you, having a rescheduling policy,
Mm.
rescheduling and cancellation, which are kind of two different things if you think about it. Thinking through, okay, if they reschedule 24 hours or more in advance, is there any kind of fee that they have to pay if they no show, if they cancel within that window? What feels good to you as a practitioner, as a business owner, to have as a policy? Because that's another thing that people don't think about or don't want until they, oops, they find themselves in that scenario.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I've recognized with my own policies is it's good to have the policy and then have the flexibility to give somebody grace if you decide that that's something that you're willing to do.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like I think with a lot of the like heart-centered healers and people that I work with in our audience, they don't want to put up too many boundaries because it does feel really firm, but I want to invite our listeners to recognize that the boundaries are there to protect you and your clients
Yes.
and customers. And then if you decide as the business owner to give grace or extend a period of time or whatever it is, then you can do that, but you have at least that legal protection in the first place.
Yes. Give yourself that option.
Yes, amazing. I want to direct people because I feel like we could cover so many more things. But I want to direct people to where they can get connected with you. I know you have a contract library and a membership space. So, what is the best next step for people that are like, oh, yeah, I really do need some of these things?
Yeah, I have a free refund policy for specifically
Deep
for
dive into
courses
the
and
details of them.
memberships. Specifically for courses and memberships, that I'll share the link for. I have a legal launch checklist also. And then if you want to hop on my newsletter, I send weekly emails with, 5-minute legal updates. That's called the Lunar Lawyer, that people can join as well. And then if I could also mention, I also host a yearly summit, a yearly business conference for spiritual entrepreneurs here in Nashville called Soul Word Summit. So I'll share that link with you as well.
Amazing. I'm so glad you brought that up. So I will put all of those links in the show notes, and I would definitely grab that free checklist because the conversation that we're having is like just a great starting point. And I think, especially as we're in, I feel like the summer season, as this episode is going live, is so busy, but to set aside some time to really do that back end CEO time to get these things in place is going to be super helpful in the long term.
For sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Maria. This was a great conversation and so
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you are listening so you never miss a beat. For episode show notes, visit calandramartin.com/podcast. Your iTunes reviews and your sharing of the show helps us reach more magnetic bosses just like you. Until next time.